The New England Patriots starting quarterback job was thought to be Jacoby Brissett's to lose. Is Drake Maye making a late training camp push for it? Stick around. You're about to be locked in to the Locked On Patriots podcast.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all of you Foxborough faithful, and thank you once again for making Locked On Patriots a daily part of your New England Patriots coverage. Remember, Locked On Patriots is not only a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, but we are also free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So smash that subscribe button and download and follow Locked On Patriots wherever you get your podcasts to ensure you're getting the latest episode as soon as it's available. I'm your host, Mike Debate, and I cover your New England Patriots for Patriots Country of Athlon Sports. So reach out to me. Let me know what's on your mind on X at MDABATENFL. And while you're out there showing some love to Locked On Patriots social media style, follow our account there as well at LO_Patriots. And Pats fans, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now, through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And Pats fans, you might as well say we're in the home stretch when it comes to Patriots training camp. Only a handful of practices remain until the Pats travel to the nation's capital to take on the Washington Commanders this Sunday, 8 p.m., Commanders Field. And that means only one thing. The NFL regular season is just days away at that point. A lot of eyes on the Patriots practice fields, injuries, roster bubbles, and of course, quarterback competition. And that's exactly where we're going to begin today on this Patriots training camp mailbag episode of Locked On Patriots. And if we're opening up the mailbag, you know there is no one else on earth that could help us not only carry in those heavy mailbags, but also wade through them and provide the wisdom, the counsel, and the truth we all need in Patriots Nation. He is my good friend, the legend himself, Thomas Murphy. Thank you for coming to me today in friendship on Mailbag Monday, Don Murph.
Happy to be here, Michael. You know, it wouldn't be a Monday without diving into the mailbag with you. And I'm glad we could get to it actually on a Monday.
It's true. It actually is the first Mailbag Monday, true Mailbag Monday in quite some time. And Murph, this mailbag did not disappoint. Not only do our everydayers deliver poignant questions, but they delivered questions that were relevant right to the very minute the Patriots hit the practice field. Without further ado, let's dive right into it.
Yeah.
And we're going to get going with, I think, not only the question of the day, maybe the question of the week, perhaps maybe even the question of training camp for all New England Patriots fans, comes to us from our good friend, a very valued and very loyal everydayer here on Locked On Patriots. Lauren from Warwick, Rhode Island, wants to know, Murph, does Drake Maye have a legit shot at starting at week 1? Now, Murph, we all know before training camp started, Jerod Mayo was very clear that he believed Jacoby Brissett was the front runner. Now, all of a sudden, there seems to be maybe a crack, maybe a fissure in that certainty, because Drake had himself a very good performance against the Eagles last week, 2 strong, solid practice performances, and the team seems to be rallying around him. Our question here, I guess Lauren's question, really most importantly, Murph, is that enough to consider Drake Maye as perhaps even a front runner now for the Patriots starting position?
No. Just stop, people. Stop. Okay. I know Drake looked really good in practice when, there's no chance of getting hit whatsoever. He looked fantastic in 7-on-7s the entire time that they were being run. He looked good in the game on in the Eagles game. I liked what I saw from him, but no. Do you folks understand how vanilla the defense was that he was facing? Honestly, it wasn't even vanilla bean. There was no bean in it. It was artificial vanilla. All right. He looked great when he was in the shotgun, doing the things that Drake Maye does, doing the things that Drake Maye was allowed to do in college. People were talking to, I heard people mentioning what footwork problems. There's no footwork involved when you're sitting in shotgun. Right? When we're talking about footwork problems, we're talking about dropping back from under center. Right? We all know that Drake Maye can navigate a pocket. He's done that really well his entire career. Um, but no, pump the brakes. All right, let this kid sit back and learn. Um, let him be able to start looking at actual game film as it's happening, or on Monday morning after a game, and be able to pass the test before we put him in there. I still do not want to see Drake Maye on the field, you know, too soon. If he's ready, he's ready. But like Mayo said, if he's ready, he'll play. He's not going to be ready. He's not. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. This is a kid who's not played a lot of football in his lifetime. He's very talented. He has all the tools. Okay, but let's make sure that he knows which tool to reach into the box for before we put him under the hood of a Ferrari, or in this case, a Volkswagen.
I like the analogy. I really do. I think that's good. I'll be slightly more optimistic. I will say that Drake does have a shot because I do think that there are elements of his game that could end up showing this week, and especially, and I'll get to this in just a moment in my follow-up question, if Jacoby Brissett continues to struggle. That's the other wild card here.
Okay.
But when it comes to the New England Patriots and what their intentions are for Drake Maye, Gerard Mayo was very clear in his appearance on WEEI's The Greg Hill Show on Monday morning, and then following up when he spoke with reporters prior to Monday's practice. He said, we have a plan. We don't plan on deviating from that plan. We have a development schedule, and that's
Right.
exactly what we're going to follow. He also followed that up and said, look, if he's ready to go, then 100% he has
Right.
the chance to earn that starting position. I don't think anyone would begrudge Gerard for saying that. But he also touched on a couple of points that you just made very eloquently, my friend. And I'm quoting Gerard verbatim here from his appearance on the Greg Hill Show. He said, you have to remember in the preseason games, the defenses, the offenses, it's really basic. There
Right.
are still going to be things that show up on the field that he hasn't seen before. And that's important to remember. How is he going to react to things that he hasn't seen before?
That's
You
it.
have to make sure he's ready for that before you throw him out there, especially with a makeshift offensive line. And we're going to get to the O-line in just a moment, folks. Don't worry. Questions abound regarding the Patriots' offensive line. But if, in fact, Drake Maye continues to progress at the level he's progressing at, he may accelerate the time it takes to get him out on the field, essentially taking the starting job from Jacoby Brissett. I can see that now being earlier than later because I think he's a little further in some of his progressions than we originally thought. But at the same time, is he ready to go week one? I think that's another kettle of fish that the New England Patriots have to decide over the course of the next couple of days. As a follow-up to Lauren's question, my friend, if in fact Drake Maye continues to progress at the level we're seeing him progress at, he has command of the huddle, he's coming in, he's making his progressions, he's doing the job he needs to do. Let's say that continues to improve as we go into this weekend's game against the Commanders. If there is a regression or a stagnation in Jacoby Brissett's performance, could that tip the Patriots' hand here?
No, I really don't. I think the plan is in place. You can agree with it or not, and this is really what this team wanted to avoid. Is this controversy talk, this quarterback competition talk. It's I can't see it happening. I can't see them feeding him to the sharks, behind, what we're going to talk about in just a moment or two, behind this offensive line. I really can't. I really don't think that if Jacoby Brissett gets hurt, I still think there's an outside shot that Bailey Zappi makes this squad just because of this reason, that the fact that they don't want to just throw him into the deep end of the pool. God forbid Jacoby Brissett goes down in week 2.
That's a very good point. Very, very good point. A lot of that is going to be solved over the course of the next couple of days. It depends on how well Bailey continues to buy into that concept and how Drake continues to develop. But all things being equal right now, Lauren, to answer your question, yes, does he have a shot? I believe he has a shot. I think Murph would probably agree that he may have a slight shot as well. But is it a good shot or a legit shot? Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said on that. And I think there's a lot to be made for the argument to be temperate, patient, and prudent here rather than simply go with the hot hand because it's the hot topic right now throughout Patriots media.
All right. Put it Mike is a guy who's a glass half full individual. I'm a guy who's a glass half empty individual. But the glass that we're talking about right now is a glass of anisette. Okay? Anisette. Okay?
Johnny Ola liked his anisette.
Johnny Ola liked his anisette. And it's not a very big glass for you folks out there that don't sip liqueurs like this. A slight little tiny half glass of anisette type chance that he's the starter week one. There a million different things would have to happen, and one of them would probably be, Matt Light coming back to the Patriots in some way, shape, or form.
I'd like to see Matt suit up. I think he'd be great right now for this team.
I kind of take him.
Bruce Armstrong.
Bruce Armstrong, give me a call.
Absolutely. I think these guys could start. Believe me, right now,
they might.
This second.
Yep. So, there's just so many things that would have to come to fruition for this to happen. And I'm sorry, Annie. Lauren, I just don't see it happening. I really don't. I know a lot of people are clamoring for it. I know it's been a very long time since any of you saw good quarterback play here. And it's just be patient and wait a little longer.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. And look, regardless of whether Drake is the starter week one or not, folks, I think what last Thursday did for all of us here in Patriots Nation is give us the hope, like Murph said, of the return of good quarterback play, solid quarterback play. Dare I say, Murph, maybe even Sunday again, great quarterback play here in New England.
This kid's got it.
He's got all the intangibles. He does. And he showed it. He showed it on the field, but you got to give it time to simmer. It's like a good sauce. It needs time to simmer on the stove. It needs time to come together. Once it comes together, chef's kiss. And that's exactly what we're going to see right there on the field when it comes to Drake Maye.
You don't want it to stick.
No, you got to make sure it doesn't stick. And a little bit of sugar, and that's my trick. And you know what, Murph? You know what could be that little bit of sugar that Drake Maye needs in order to bring his sauce is a left tackle, maybe a little offensive line help. And in just a moment, folks, Murph and I are going to go back into the mailbag. We're going to wade through it, and we're going to pick out one of the most poignant questions regarding this offensive line that's been asked to date. Murph and I discuss that and more when this episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast continues, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On listeners, passion, drive, and patience is what brings home that winning trophy. You know what? It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. Our good friends over at eBay Motors have everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks to exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Patriots fans, thank you once again for joining us here today on Locked On Patriots. It is Patriots Training Camp Mailbag Monday, and if we're talking Patriots and we're talking mailbags, you know there's only one man on this earth that can help us do both with style, pizzazz, and truth, and that is my good friend Thomas Murphy, the legend himself, the Count of Murphy Fisto, joining me here on Locked On Patriots. And before we continue our discussion and wading into the Monday mailbag, I want to give a tip of the cap to all of you everydayers out there, all of you Locked On loyalists that make Locked On Patriots your first listen each and every day and help to make the show what it is. We appreciate all of your support. And if you're making Locked On Patriots your first listen every day, I implore you to make your second listen our good friends over at Locked On Fantasy Football. All of our great analysts throughout the Locked On Podcast Network join you each and every day to help you win your fantasy league. Locked On Fantasy Football is also a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So make sure to subscribe, download, and follow Locked On Fantasy Football, just like you follow, subscribe, and download Locked On Patriots. And Pats fans, again, we are wading through the mailbag with our good friend Murph. Murph, in the previous segment, we talked a lot about Drake Maye and his chances of starting week one. And we talked about how his performance on the practice field may help to tip the hand of Gerard Mayo and the Patriots Brain Trust.
Right.
One thing that could be a major factor in when Drake sees the field is the status of the offensive line. Elliot Wolf, executive director of player personnel, gave a little bit of a state of the Patriots address to all of us in the media on Sunday morning. Unsurprisingly, one of the subjects that came up was the offensive line. Elliot's comments caused a little bit of a stir throughout Patriots social media when he said that they were very excited and very satisfied with the talent and the play that they have along the offensive line. Well, that seemed to raise the ire of some members of Patriots Nation, including one of our all-time favorite everydayers. You knew this was not going to sit well with this gentleman. I didn't expect it to. It didn't sit well with Murph. It sat even worse with our good friend LJ at show_1, who was a little steamed up and tweeted at us, Murph, to voice his displeasure. LJ asked the question that I think is on the minds of a lot of Patriots fans right now. Although Elliot Wolf said the Pats are excited about their O-line, do you think they will add a veteran before the start of the season? Murph, based on what the line looks like right now, based on what's out there, what do you think of LJ's question? Are the Patriots in the market, and should they be, for a new offensive lineman here?
Oh, yes, they absolutely should be. There's no doubt about it. They need help on this offensive line. The tackles that they have right now are second and third string tackles, and you folks are talking about putting a young, prominent, the fourth round pick in the third pick in the NFL draft. You people are talking about putting this man out there behind this. This is a mismatch of talent, and yes, I've been saying for weeks that they're searching for the right combination. I don't know. They've been through every combination. All right, they should have cracked the safe by now. All right, the combination is not really there. It is not set. And I think that they're going to have to be quick on the waiver wire. They have the they're in the third spot there on the waiver wire, but the problem is that it depends on what everybody else is looking for. There could be cuts in Arizona on the offensive line. Cincinnati did a lot to upgrade their offensive line this off season, so there might be something happening there, and you never know. Maybe somebody we signed so and so to this contract, and he's just not living up to it, and we have the cap space, but let's just move on now. So they're going to do something. They're going to have to do something, unless there's nothing to be done, unless that there's no one out there that gets let go that they feel is better than what they have on this roster right now. And quite frankly, I find it hard to believe that anybody that would get let go is not better than what they have on this roster right now at the tackle position. And that's with the exception of Mike Onwenu, who finally got a few snaps in at right tackle this week, because I think that they're just trying so hard to find somebody to bookend this line, and they just know Onwenu, they can just plug him in week one if they have to on the right side.
That's a very good point about Michael Onwenu. Now, when we spoke to Mike in the media on Saturday, he was very vocal about the fact that this is planning for contingency. Nick Leverett wasn't out there on the practice field. They're missing a few guys. They just want to make sure that everybody is well adept in taking snaps at all positions, so they can fill all of them. I still expect Mike to be the right guard when all is said and done. I think that's where he's been aligning most, and probably where he will be.
Yeah.
However, at the same time, You also hit the nail on the head when it comes to Caden Wallace. Everybody after the Eagles game where he took some snaps at left tackle and people were saying put him in, he deserves to be there. Majority of where he's been the last couple of days in practice is at right because I think that's his natural position. So do the Patriots go out and get a bona fide left tackle? Well, as luck would have it, we actually heard that a left tackle might soon be available as soon as we're recording this podcast, and that is Dennis Daly, most recently of the Arizona Cardinals, drafted in the 6th round of the 2019 NFL Draft by the Carolina Panthers. He's played in 54 games, started 37 of them. Most recently, obviously, he's played with the Cardinals, but he also has played with the Titans. Murph, is this someone that could possibly come in and be a left tackle? He's graded up and down from Pro Football Focus, had some very good moments, some very bad moments. But is this the type of move that you could see the Patriots making?
Yeah, but it'd be a desperation move.
Hmm.
I mentioned Arizona, a few minutes ago and whatnot, but if they're really, really unhappy with everything that they have here, I could see bringing him in, but he would end up possibly being a second stringer.
Hmm.
I don't. He's not. It, he's not steady enough. He's not consistent enough to put over there on the left side and depend on him. And that's saying a lot here in New England after what we've had to depend on over the past couple of seasons here on the left-hand side of the line.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I mean, I know his name is not extremely popular right now
Mhm.
throughout much of the fan base, but if this is what they're going to do and they're going to sign Daly, I would almost rather see them stick with Vidarian Lowe, who's been here for a
Yeah,
year and probably has a little more upside in this offense because of his familiarity with some of the guys that he's playing with and his desire to get better and his desire to try to prove his coaches correct in the faith they've shown in him. Yeah, I would probably say they're better off sticking with Vidarian
yeah,
rather than going with Daly, who, in my opinion, has been so up and down throughout his career that, like you said, it just makes it difficult to
yeah.
trust him, especially when you're talking
Coming
about
into
protecting the
a
blind side.
different system too. That
Absolutely.
they don't run this system in Arizona, and it would be
Mm,
really difficult for them. A name that I would keep on that I keep hearing is on the bubble is Jackson Carman out
mm.
of Cincinnati.
This is going to sound negative from the brimming of positivity that you kind of gave me a few minutes ago, saying the glass is half full. Beggars can't be choosers in this situation. If the
Right,
Patriots are serious about wanting to protect their quarterback, and especially if they're going to go with a young quarterback sooner rather than later,
right.
you need bodies to do that, and you need established veterans to do that. Maybe that is the move to make for the New England
It's
Patriots.
just sticking in Ohio. Jack Conklin is coming back from knee surgery,
Hmm.
and he might be the odd man out there in Cleveland. And we all know that he is completely adept at being in this Alex Van Pelt system. He
Hmm.
knows everything, so he could be a a one of those moves where Cleveland would rather trade him for a fifth or a sixth round pick than releasing him. All right,
Hmm.
I think they'll save a couple $3 million by letting him go, but that's if they trade him, the Patriots could definitely take on all of that money.
Absolutely, they could. And Elliot Wolf still has some friends over in that front office, still thought of very highly, as is Alex Van Pelt. So, you know what? That could be. There is a synergy and there is a history of the Patriots and the Browns working out some deals together. Maybe this is the move to make. Folks, we'll see. The proof will be in the pudding on the field with the New England Patriots as they march toward the regular season. But all eyes are going to continue to be on the practice field this week, Murph, because Patriots have a preseason game coming up, and the offensive line will continue to be a focal point. LJ, to answer your question, I think if the Patriots do add someone, it might be difficult for them to do that before this game coming up. But prior to the start of the season, they might have no choice but to do that. However, if they add someone, it's only going to push another member of this roster, possibly off of that bubble. Who will be pushed off the roster bubble? Which Patriots player right now that's trying to do just that faces the tallest task in popping that roster bubble? Murph and I are going to discuss that point and give our choices when this episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast wraps up right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On listeners, you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And with the NFL season fast approaching, I know you all out there in Patriots Nation are going to be looking at FanDuel for all of their offerings regarding the Patriots opener against the Bengals, the home opener against the Seahawks, and so much more. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now, through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Just visit fanduel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. Patriots fans, thank you once again for joining us here today on Locked On Patriots. It is Patriots Mailbag Monday Training Camp Edition. And of course, joining us as always, every time there's a mailbag, this man comes in and lends the wisdom, counsel, and reason to make it legit. That is my good friend, the legend himself, the Count of Murphy Fisto, the legendary Thomas Murphy, joining me here today. And Murph, we've talked about quarterbacks. We've talked about the offensive line. Two of the hottest topics in New England right now when it comes to this 2024 Patriots team. But you and I both know there's a lot of positional groups on this team, a lot of players trying to make this roster. 90 will become 53 in just a matter of a couple of weeks. And that's not an easy task. That is an excruciating task, especially for a young head coach, a rookie head coach, and a regime that is still trying to find its own footing here in New England. Murph, there are a lot of players out there that are trying to make this roster, both on offense, defense, and on special teams. When you look at this roster from top to bottom, I know you see things us mere mortals don't see. So I'm going to ask you to pull upon that supernatural Murphian wisdom and counsel for just a moment and indulge our good friend, a longtime listener, an everydayer, and a first-time submitter here on Locked On Patriots, Lee in Amesbury, Massachusetts, wants to know which player faces the biggest challenge in making the Patriots opening day roster. Don Murph, floor is yours.
All right, this is going to really hurt because he's somebody that I've liked since his time in college. I loved his film. We were all rooting for him when he came in here, but it's Kayshon Big Butte. He might be the guy on the outside looking in. His skill set is just like completely redundant. You know, Osborne has done really well in this camp, and Polk, Baker, Kendrick Bourne, when he gets back, Osborne, they all do what he does, and they do it a little bit better. And I just think that he's going to be on the outside looking in, and it really hurts because he's, for everything that he's gone through, we were all really rooting for.
That's an interesting point. I actually had Kayshon on my 53-man roster during yesterday's episode. And so I'm going to differ slightly.
And who'd you cut, Mike? Who'd you cut?
I cut Tyquan.
You did.
And that hurt me to do that. What I did was I looked at injury history and I looked at ability in terms of being able to run routes, in terms of being able to successfully navigate what this system is going to do under Alex Van Pelt. And I gave Kayshon the slight nod. Now, that's not to say that I believe that Tyquan Thornton has performed at a level that warrants him to be cut. I simply had to make a choice, and it was a very difficult one. And who knows if it was the right one. I mean, I don't get to make these decisions. The Patriots do. Thankfully, that is the case. But I do definitely understand where you're coming from on Kayshon, though, because if they are going to go with a receiver at this point, of the three that we've mentioned, I would say Reagor has the leg up on the competition. And I did say that yesterday. And it's exactly because of what you said. Special teams as well. His ability to be a factor in the return game gives him the slight edge there. So
I have both of them on mine. My unpublished roster projections, I have both of them on mine as being those X factors, that X receiver, that guy, those guys that can stretch the field. And I just think that Butte is the guy on the outside looking in, because there's just more people that do what he does. And he can't do what these two do.
Yeah. It is. And I definitely understand that. I can certainly see where you're coming from on that, and I'm not saying that you're wrong because I disagree. I'm not saying that that's a bad
Right.
point that you made. It's simply a matter of preference, and it's a way that you're going to put this team together. So I can see Kayshawn having an uphill battle in terms of cracking this roster bubble. I also think Taekwon's at that point. Do the Patriots value his speed more than they value Kayshawn's route running? I think the argument can be made. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. The Patriots have a big time decision to make. And will they make the right one? Well, we'll see. I went in a different direction on this, and I'm going to go with a special teamer. And
Okay.
because I'm going with a special teamer, I think you can probably figure out where I'm going on this one. Based on what I've seen the last few games, maybe I'm a victim of the moment, maybe I'm not. I'll definitely take my criticism if I am, but I'm going to say that right now, as we sit and speak, Chad Ryland faces a very uphill battle to make this roster.
Yep.
I'm not saying that Chad doesn't have upside as an NFL kicker. I believe he does. You look at what he did last year, 16 of 25 field goal attempts, 64%.
Yep.
Not necessarily all world, but I do believe that he's better than what he showed in his rookie season.
Yeah.
The reason I believe he faces a tall task against Joey Sly is because Sly is hitting his stride at the right time.
Yep.
He's hitting from beyond 51.
Right.
Which is something that unfortunately Chad is not doing right now.
No.
And he's also showing an ability to be a solid physical presence on kickoffs.
Yep.
And I think that's where he gets the nod right now, because kickers are going to have to be a little more physical, or at least a little more aware of what's going on at these kickoff with the new kickoff rules. I think Joey holds the edge right now over Chad based on that. It would be a real difficult cut for New England because of the draft capital they used last year to bring him in. But I think this regime is not afraid to move on from what they feel may have been a bad pick, or at least an ill-advised pick at that point. I think right now Chad is facing a very difficult time in trying to make this roster.
No, I agree. I couldn't argue with anything there. He really does. He's done everything that's been asked of him. You mentioned the changing kickoff rules, and how big it's going to be for these guys to be able to go stick their shoulder in there and make a stop. And he can do it. He's shown that he can do it.
Yeah, Joey is very well put together. You can definitely see him throwing that weight and that body around to be able to do that. And he's got veteran savvy. He's been in the league for a number of years. He's kicked in the elements. He's kicked in difficult situations.
I hate it. I just hate it.
I can't argue with you there. I really can't. I try to be as diplomatic as I can be, to simply say it's going to take some getting used to. You don't. You can be as honest as you like. And, I mean, if we're reading between the lines here, folks, I think you can tell where I align on this as well. But look, bottom line, it's the rule. So it's not going anywhere. This is what's going to happen at least through this year. That's why I think Joey Sly has the upper hand here on making this roster. Now, I could also see the Patriots potentially moving on from Chad Ryland at roster cut downs. If he makes it through waivers, I could see the Patriots retaining him via the practice squad. I don't think that's necessarily a bad investment. Pats have carried a kicker on the practice squad before, and it's done them a service in years past. So it's quite possible that the Patriots choose to go that route. But I think Sly is the guy coming out of training camp. So things can always take all types of twists and turns, folks. That's what the last full week of Patriots training camp practices are going to be for. And a lot is going to be hinged on what we see on Sunday night against the Washington Commanders. Don't forget, an 8 p.m. kickoff time from Commanders Field in the nation's capital. It's going to be a lot of fun, Murph, and we're all going to be glued to that. But before we do so, a tip of the cap to Lee for a great question here. Hope we were able to give you a little bit of headway on which Patriots might crack that roster bubble. Also want to show some love to LJ and Lauren for great questions. But most of all, we wouldn't have a mailbag here on Locked On Patriots if it wasn't for my good friend, the Conor Murphy Fisto himself. Murph and I didn't agree a whole lot this episode. But you know what? Variety is the spice of life. We love it. And you know what? We can disagree and still be friends. And that's the great thing about what you see here on Locked On Patriots. Bud, what can I say? You're always there for the handoff. Your wisdom, your counsel, your truth, your reason, second to none when it comes to Locked On Patriots guests. Before I let you go, please let everyone know where they can reach out to you, interact with you, and what you got marinating in Murph's kitchen from now until the end of the week when you come back.
You can always check me out on Zitter at TMurph207. I got a couple of socks columns coming up?
Anytime, my good friend, the Conor Murphy Fisto himself, puts pen to paper when it comes to your Boston Red Sox or your New England Patriots, it's appointment reading, and you'll be more entertained and more informed than you will be anywhere else. So why not do that? Definitely check it out. You can find all of his great work at diehardbostonsportsfans.com. And anytime you want to hear the golden melodious tones of Murph's voice, you can always check him out right here on Locked On Patriots, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We remind you to stay safe and to stay well and to be the change you wish to see in the world. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you back here again next time on Locked On Patriots.